Welcome everyone to our final event of the summer period. On behalf of the Anglo-Ruskin Cybersecurity and Networking Research Group, OWAS Cambridge, the BCS Cybercrime Forensics, the BCS Women, e-learning Hampshire and Dorset branches, I would like to welcome our speaker today, Professor Sarah Morris, who's going to be talking about Operation Poppins and educational approaches to digital forensics, and some general housekeeping rules. If anyone has questions as we go through, please can you enter questions in the chat box. I will retrieve the questions at the end and put them to Sarah. If you can keep your microphones on mute, and obviously the presentation is being recorded, but the questions and answers will not be at the end. If anyone has any suggestions for other speakers or subjects, please do let us know and contact myself or Margaret, and that'll be greatly appreciated. And without further ado, I would like to pass over to Sarah.
Oh, thank you, Adrian, and good afternoon to everybody. Just give me 1 second to get my screen up and running. So, Adrian, can I check, is that the screen we had before? We okay?
Yep, that looks okay. University of Southampton. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay. So this afternoon, as Adrian said, I'm going to talk to you about our new approach at Southampton to delivering digital forensics education. And when I say new approach, this is an approach I've been developing over my 15 years teaching digital forensics. But as you'll see, Southampton, we've adopted a slightly different spin as we've moved forward with this new era. So I'm from the School of Electronics and Computer Science, which is one of the big schools at the university. It's got a wonderful cross-disciplinary mix of both electronics specialists, computer scientists, and those of us who sit in the middle doing computer engineering. As part of that, we have the cybersecurity group, which has NCSC certification across our offerings in cyber and is a cyber center of excellence for both education and research. We have expertise in cyber across the traditional cybersecurity, all the way through CyBOC, right through to me in digital forensics. We're available for consultancy, research, training and education, and now investigative casework as well. In terms of myself, so I've been in digital forensics for 15 years now, which is making me feel old every time that number goes up. I have been an academic for that whole time, so predominantly focused on traditional academic duties, such as doing research. Predominantly, I do research across a wide range of digital forensic disciplines, but my favorite includes data recovery and document analysis. For the 15 years, I've also been casework active, and predominantly that started in criminal-based casework. But over the last 7 or so years, that's moved into more investigative casework around not just criminal, but civil intelligence work for journalists and all manner of people, not just in the UK, but all over the globe. I don't think I'm ever going to live down the fact that one of my big cases involved a smart washing machine, although I am working on finding something more unusual so that I can put up a different picture on this slide. And I'm on a number of national and international advisory panels, the public of which is the Biometrics and Forensics Ethics Group, which is a non-departmental public body sponsored by the Home Office. So I'm going to talk to you about education related items. So I wanted to share with you my background in education. So I have 6 student-led teaching awards. I'm a finalist in this year's Vice Chancellor Awards for the University of Southampton for teaching. I have awards relating to women in defence, and we have consistent feedback across teaching of over 4 out of 5 for our modules. Previously, I've been a course director of an MSc course where we were the first to gain NCSC certification for digital forensics. And I've also served time as an assistant deputy director of education, where I focused on future strategy and technology use. In terms of our current digital forensic team at Southampton, I'm delighted that this week we were able to start publicising that Simon Biles has joined the team. He is a wonderful defence-focused digital forensics expert and a great friend. We also have a number of other people, which due to various agencies and things, we're not going to give surnames, but Robin and Adam are in-house based researchers, and John, Chris, Anne and Charles are practitioners who come in and assist and are actively involved in moving us forward with this new start. I'd also like to give thanks because a lot of what we're going to talk about today and the initial ideas were formed when I was at Cranfield in my previous role. So whilst we have significantly adapted the base techniques that we're going to talk about, the initial sparring of could we use gamification came about for outreach activities at Cranfield. And therefore, I'd like to give thanks to Melissa and Gareth, who were part of that team in the initial conversations. We also have Will, Stefan and Kieran, who are leaving us now, but again, have formed a significant part of this journey moving forward. So all of the team are practitioner focused. So we all do casework, and I think that's super important for guiding us on education in digital forensics. Just because
Tilly.
Someone might want to consider muting their microphone. So we're focused on practitioner related things, which means that what we're educating is really based on our insights as practitioners, I guess, and bringing that to how we teach it, so that we're always focused on how that's going to benefit casework, how that's going to benefit practitioners. The practitioners, though, are across a range of investigative types and work both within the UK and across the world, and a range of sides. So we have experts that work prosecution, that work defence, and work other things. Everybody is a hands-on expert working at the binary level, and we're all geeks, really, I think is the primary thing. And most of our teaching is focused on practitioners, although now we've moved to this new, I guess, era. We're also working on undergraduate and master's offerings. And indeed, last semester, we ran a digital forensics module on the cyber masters. So what is the problem that we're talking about today? Well, number one, I think everybody in our industry knows that getting resources is really difficult, both in terms of academic support, where you're constantly fighting for not just physical space, but any form of resource. And then we have on top of that, trying to find people who are willing to teach and willing to come on board to do academic work in digital forensics is very tough. There's already a limited number of people out there in the field. So when you start looking at trying to recruit academics, when industry can pay so much more and have a lot more perks, it can be really difficult to recruit. So when you have limited resources, that already constrains where you can go and what you might want to do. We also had a problem that I am one of those people who was very lucky enough to be trained by Professor Tony Sams and Brian Jenkinson, as was Simon. And we know that there is an existing brand out there that is so well loved and respected in the field. And we wanted to do justice to their legacy and all the training they gave us, all the support, and all the wisdom that they gave us over the years. And both Cy and I have been lucky enough to teach and be involved in courses with Tony and Brian. Now, their brand was incredibly cheesy, and there's a really good reason for that. And it's in terms of mental health. So everybody in digital forensics is very well aware that it is incredibly difficult mental health wise. We see a lot of terrible things. We see often the worst in humanity, regardless of the investigative discipline you're working in. And that can have a significant toll on you. So what Tony and Brian didn't want to do, and what Cy and I definitely don't want to do with the courses moving forward, is have scenarios that are too realistic. We want you to come in the classroom, we want you to have a great time, we want you to laugh, and we want the focus to be on the technical skills. So we purposefully use very cheesy scenarios just for that mental health balance, so that you can really focus on the point of the education rather than it being too close to things that may be triggering or upsetting. It's also a problem that digital forensics is a very technical based subject, and whilst there are courses that focus on non-technical elements or go higher level, we really believe that the understanding of the binary level information is important, particularly as tools can't keep up and we're getting more and more new devices, more unusual devices, and more challenges across the digital forensic landscape. So by teaching at a binary level, then you're making sure that you not sorry about that, someone muted me. Where was I? Yeah, so we're making sure that you have that technical level of understanding across the discipline, and therefore can keep up regardless of whether there is a tool available or not, and also so you can understand the tool. In terms of students in these kind of disciplines like to have hands-on learning and often want things where they're going to be very interactive. So sitting and doing a just chalk and talk isn't going to work very well for these kind of students. You want something that's going to be interactive. And again, when you're dealing with limited resources, interactivity comes at a significant cost and can be difficult to manage. You then have the problem of delivery, and of course the pandemic placed a whole new spin on how do we deliver, how do we focus on online, do we focus on in person, how do we move things between the two as and when required. I think it's these combination of problems that really led us to thinking about this in a different way. In particular, it's no secret in the industry that I became so overloaded at one point I collapsed in the middle of a lecture. And we just thought, what can we do that can take the load off us, but still keep all those wonderful things we want to keep from the Tony and Brian days of teaching? How can we make it fun and cheesy? How can we make it interactive, but without any more people collapsing, without us being so exhausted? And really, that's where we got to in terms of designing a solution. So the solution I'm going to show you is one that we used for outreach that was designed with Charles's company. And I have permission from Charles to show you these materials in terms of moving forward. Now, the materials I'm going to show you to start with are basic, where we began. And then what I'm going to do is show you where we're now going with that concept and how we've evolved it. So we started off quite simply with a basic gamification where we used a card-based approach and a map. Now, the card-based approach had 12 cards with 6 suspects and 6 artifacts. And the idea was that there would be 6 different rooms or 6 different activities, in each one a different data set relating to the same overall scenario, but where each suspect and each artifact would only be the primary source of evidence once. So each suspect would only be the lead in the crime once, each key artifact would only be the key nugget of gold in that case once. Now each room had that different combination and you couldn't revisit a room. And we found that that was a gentle start to gamification, got people talking. We called it pseudo, Linux fans, and that worked well. But we thought we could do better. And that's where we focused on, right, we've come up with a scenario, we've really built the scenario into having multiple parts, but how can we bring that to life a little bit more? Well, we've always had an approach of a 3-tiered classroom exercise for each activity. So be that if we're teaching about the forensics of the recycle bin or how to do acquisition or whatever. And those 3 tiers were lecture, then assisted, and then exploration. So the lecture is really the chalk and talk bit where one of us will stand at the front and deliver. That might be in a virtual video, that might be in the classroom. And that's really us talking about the problem. Now that will involve technical content, and typically involves our case stories and information about how we would apply it as practitioners to the problem. But it is very much focused on us telling you the information. And we try and keep that as short as possible, no more than a third of an individual session, because we're very aware that it's very difficult to focus for long periods, particularly when we're doing video content. And we want to keep this to the key concepts, the key justification as to why, the key where we'd use it in the case, and the key technical content. We then move over to what we call assisted. So this is where we use a scenario that we call the teaching scenario. This is the one that we use to demonstrate the concepts. And this allows us to do walkthroughs and allows us to give exercises with example answers where the students can really follow along and get that hands-on technical practice to see how that particular technical component or that technical exercise works without it being their only opportunity. So this is really their opportunity to do it with us, alongside us. In the third part of each session, we then have exploration, and this is where the student gets to do it on their own, using a scenario that they investigate from start to finish in the module. Now, this means that this scenario, the investigative work is all their own. We're not leading them, and it's very much a chance for them to go and explore the concepts and explore them not just singularly for that particular session, but explore them in the concept of the wider scenario over the module or the short course. And therefore get that feel, that real sense of ownership, and in particular agency about how the objects relate together, how the concepts relate together to build that overall narrative. And we really think taking agency for the learning is so important, particularly when you're training up current investigators and the next generation of investigators. You want them to have that confidence, that understanding that they can go away and do these things themselves. So the next thing we developed, and it started off as an agency for our outreach program. So it's an agency we developed for schools first as part of a school funded exercise, and we called it the Underestimated Experts Detective Agency. This, and again, abbreviates to TUX because again, Linux. And we developed an agency primarily so that we could keep reusing the same good guys every time, so that we had the same logos, and trying to take a little bit of pressure off the development. So every agency needs a promo video. Now, what's interesting is we started off delivering this to school children, and I should have said before my 15 years doing digital forensics, I spent a couple of years as a high school teacher. School children got very, very excited about the promo video, got very invested in the case. But what we found really interesting was when we took the same style and used it with law enforcement, they were just as excited as the school children to get involved and just as invested as being part of the detective agency, which I think was very, very cool. We then moved on to, okay, we've got our detective agency. We want to make it feel a little bit more real. So we developed a headquarters using some software that Charles gave us access to. And you can already see it's starting to feel more like a world. And again, these resources, things that we can reuse. And again, really well received across both the school outreach that we were doing and then when we brought it into wider usage. Right, then for each individual module and each individual case, we were developing trailers. So the first one we developed was for our major outreach offering that we were at the time delivering to multiple schools per year. Hopefully this will go. So we found that those case trailers were something that we could hand out before the module, usually with joining instructions, or for the students, children taking the modules, we could give them to the school a week or so in advance and really build up that interest in the case. We thought this is good. You know, we're starting to get a real feel for this virtual world, but we could do a little bit better. Now, one of the areas we were really struggling in, particularly in scenarios where we had crime scenes and other interactive elements, was getting actors. And the big problem with that was getting actors that not only were consistent, but reliable, because again, resources and staffing are very difficult. And it's very difficult to ask people to give up a considerable amount of their time to rerun activities again and again, particularly when you've got big classes. So we moved on to trying animated characters, and the idea here being that we could use animated characters and therefore have full control of the dialogue. Students could re-listen to the dialogue anytime they wanted, and therefore we've got some consistent, easy to use and reusable characters. So to give you an example, here's one of an initial suspect being interviewed by one of the students.
Howdy, this is David Ringles. Liz said you were handling my case.
Hi David, that is correct. I'm an agent from the Underestimated Experts Detective Agency. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I am the Vice President of Lonely Heart Technologies. Our core business is online dating. I have a degree in computer security and I am a certified ethical hacker. I've just got back from a week of holiday in Devon.
Thank you, David. So what has happened that you need Tux's help with?
Today, on my return to work, I decided to catch up with my email.
And that's great. And so now you've got characters that can interact and with the students, and you can have quizzing them, you can have video calls, you can have all sorts. But we wanted to go one step further and start creating more characters in our virtual world. So.
Oh, you hate your job, Lisa. Why didn't you say so? There's a support group for that. It's called Everybody. Oh, you're not Lisa. Wrong call. You must be the new Tux recruits. I'm Ross, head of Tux HR. To save time, let's just assume I'm never wrong. I'm calling to...
So this is one of our HR representatives, and we started creating a whole world of characters. And again, we found this really good for the students being able to go back to, and also allowed us to really have full ownership of that world and really create an in-depth environment. We also found that if we were careful on the wording, we could reuse these for multiple scenarios and chop and change them a little bit, which again saved a lot of time. Now, no virtual world would be complete without your IT guy. So here's a snippet from our tech support.
Tux Detective Agency, IT Service Desk. My name is Riker. How can I help you today?
Hi, I am from the new digital forensics team. My employee ID is Tux. 1, 2, 3. I am working on Operation Vamoose. I was wondering if you could tell me where the email sent to David Ringles at 23:59 last night from Anonymous originated.
Okay. Before I can give you that information, I will need to put you on hold while I check your security clearance. Please stay on the line. Okay. I can confirm you have clearance for this information.
So as you can see, what we're really building in is that cheese and also those opportunities for laugh moments, you know, like where people are being kept on hold, and just trying to keep it nice and light and upbeat, and also, you know, get out some of our frustrations. We kept it very technical. So all of them had technical exercises. We didn't move it away from the hex editor. I wouldn't survive without the hex editor. So everything had that technical element alongside those videos. And also we have sheets. So here's one of our recent ones from Southampton. And these are walkthrough sheets showing exactly how to do certain parts of the exercises. We made substantial use of H5P, and this enabled us to have a variety of different activities, and we'll talk more about H5P later, but everything from drag and drop of word scenarios all the way through to kind of choose your own adventure style elements, which we use for virtual crime scene activities. And similarly, for where we couldn't do virtual because video wasn't going to work, we'd also have choose your own adventure style books. So this is one that we developed only in the last few weeks that we've delivered with defense and security PhD students here at Southampton on Acme Stationery. And again, these were great, and these were all really good elements, and we started to build up a world, but we didn't feel that world was quite complete. So what I'm really excited to share with you is the preview of where we're going to take all these individual elements and how we're building that into the new offering at Southampton, and how we're really taking that gamification that we've already started in turning every module into a case, into something that little bit more. So we've already started running a number of short courses, and indeed we've got another one running in another couple of weeks. But the big opening will be in October, and this is when our new facilities will open. Now we're so lucky because existing facilities at ECS include a teaching lab that has over 180 seats and incredible computers with absolutely gorgeous monitors, lots of space, and classroom management software. There is a similar size electronics teaching lab and a load of smaller labs, both for teaching, independent study, group work, you name it. We also have a high power voltage laboratory with a number of smaller labs within it, which has access to anechoic chambers and Faraday rooms, which is a fantastic thing to use for both research and teaching in the space. And of course, ECS has a phenomenal set of clean rooms that are used for both industry work and research. So that's what we've already got, but the university's really heavily invested in digital forensics. So Tim, as head of school, has invested in my vision for moving digital forensics forward, and is giving us 3 new laboratories that we've just been buying all the kit for. And I'm super excited about the new casework lab, our new research lab, and our crime scene lab that will be used in conjunction with existing ECS facilities to really drive forward our gamification vision to both practitioners for outreach and for the general students, including undergraduates, postgraduates, and integrated masters. So how are we going to do this then? How are we going to make the most of these beautiful facilities to move forward? Well, firstly, we thought having an agency isn't enough. So the first thing we did was develop our own world. So we've developed the world of Cyberly, and we're calling it a unique digital slice of quintessential British life. We've started to create a map of Cyberly, and indeed this has the map that you see in front of you, as well as a digital map, kind of similar to a Google map environment that they can walk around and get a feel for the environment. Cyberly has everything from a cinema, a bowling alley, all the way through to banks, town hall, a research laboratory, you name it, everything you need to make custom scenarios and really build up that world. We then thought, okay, our new world needs some investigators. And whilst we were very big fans of Tux, and we know that students and practitioners really like the world of Tux we created, we thought we could go one better. And we've now developed the BITE Detective Agency, and where BITE stands for Brilliant Yet Tenacious Examiners. And you'll see that there's a lot of computer puns throughout our new world. And we thought this detective agency, we started to develop Tux, but we thought we can go a little bit further here. And we've now developed a number of units, including parody for peculiar analysis and recovery of digital yarns, all the way through to our BITS unit, which is binary intelligence and technology sleuths, and you name it. And again, having all these units and having all these pre-developed elements enables us to slot and slide them into scenarios. And we're already finding that this is speeding up our work considerably. It's also making a consistent narrative that we're finding is really enhancing the student experience and really setting us above. And I'm just so excited with this virtual world we've created. I wish I could move in. We have a building for BITE that is the building that I live in Zeppler on campus. We've created our own virtual floor plan for it, which includes a gift shop, because every good building has to have a gift shop. And whilst there are a number of floors, we take them to the lift. And in true kind of IT crowd style, we put our new team in the basement. So all our new recruits that start on the modules will start in this basement team, where they build up and work through the scenarios as part of the BITE agency. And again, because there's so many different units, it enables us to reuse reports, to really build in that big scenario, and to really build this custom world. And that's good. But we thought, okay, so we've got a set of good guys that we're going to use every time. We also need a set of bad guys, because then every scenario we're reusing the same bad guys. And that way, again, resource generation, we can reuse them. Weirdly, in a kind of Scooby-Doo meets Inspector Gadget style, they get away at the end of every case, which is super frustrating. But I'd like to introduce you anyway to Villainous Ventures Incorporated. We think that they're going to be a dangerous set of villains that work on a number of cases and are hosted by Professor Marmalade Mayhem, who is a misunderstood genius, with a team of what we've called cunning cohorts, who give us every opportunity to do a wide variety of cases, from straight electronics all the way through computer science, and then some multidisciplinary stuff around CSI investigation and you name it. Got a world, so we've got a world, we've got the buildings, we've got the backstory, we've got our detective agency, we've got the bad guys. We've started building up scenarios from this in the world using all the digital elements, so the same kind of animated characters interacting with our virtual world and all the components. And these scenarios take both physical elements along with electronic and digital elements to build up a immersive scenario that has both physical interaction options and can be done solely online, because a lot of our new offerings are online, but we also have in-house teaching as well in the big lab. So the 3 scenarios that are coming up first are Operation Codebreaker Carnival, where there's a load of cryptic messages popping up all over, and this is a very IoT focused scenario. We have Operation Trojan Treasure, which is an antique cyber chest has been stolen from a museum. So this has some elements of archaeology and some other cool bits that we're excited about. And is a collaboration with a variety of forensic practitioners, and it involves some CSI training as well. And Operation Silicon Spectre, which involves some ghosts and some other paranormal, which really gave us an opportunity to do some interesting things. And the point of showing you this is really to show you the diverse range of things, I guess, that we can use this world for now that it's developed, and the ease in which we can take elements out and reuse them, not just for our needs in digital forensics, but for the needs of our related colleagues in forensics, as well as more traditional subjects and also cybersecurity as well. This means that we're getting maximum usage out of every element. And I'm so excited that we've taken what was an unmanageable workload and is now not only very manageable, but also super fun to really get involved in this whole world that we've created. We're building up data. We've used a technique that starts with building our main scenario for each that uses our good guys and our bad guys. We've then identified the key evidence that would be in it, both in terms of our physical elements and the data, so the nuggets of gold, as Tony would call them, that they're going to find. What anti-forensics are going to be in there. We've always added in some unusual things to really get them thinking. And again, these come from mostly our casework experience, but also our trawling of the dark and the weird online and other places to work out what's unusual or coming out there. We then start building physical devices. So everything is built up using actual devices so that you get realistic artifacts that marry the full kind of spectrum of the digital forensic sphere. So you've got both the data in transit and the data on the device to work with. Now, the reason we do this for every case is, again, so that we've got that reusable data. So by building up a big scenario, we might be able to take parts of it for the document course, as well as parts of it for the CSI training, and reuse the scenario. This enables us to get maximum usage out of every element. And again, because digital forensics and devices in general are moving so quickly, this makes maximum usage out of every little thing we create, and has drastically cut time. I think we're down to about 40% of what I was doing in terms of preparation for a course now, which is a phenomenal saving on time. Everything has interactive elements, so every single bit, and these can be, as you've seen in those H5P, they can also be in Microsoft Forms that allow us to automate marking alongside various other things, 360 crime scenes, you name it. And of course, your big technical disk sets that granted have a lot of disks now and a lot of data in transit data, so packet data, etc., but enable us to really give them that ability to not just explore the elements we want them to explore, but explore them in the wider context of the actual full case, so you can really see where those elements fit. I didn't want a document course where they're only looking at documents. I wanted them to see how those documents related to other elements on the systems, other data that was going along, so they could really see where that fit in the grand scheme of the case, so that they understand that it's not, you know, a single document that is the center of the universe, but actually the digital ecosphere is made up of so much more. Now, for those of you that are interested in doing elements like this and building up your own world, we've used a variety of tools. So firstly, we've built a custom VLE that isn't live yet. There is a a non-internet based working model that we're working on that uses a custom VLE that's Moodle based. The reason for choosing Moodle was it gave us full control over the environment and also allowed us to use it for investigating itself as well as for using it for teaching. And that's going to be at Byte Detective Agency. And there'll be an open section that's open to everybody, including schools, as well as closed sections for teaching and for our paid for courses. We use a lot of H5P, which comes integrated with Moodle, and we're super big fans of the H5P set. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. The amount of different activities that you can develop and the stress it takes off you as an academic or trainer in terms of enabling the student to self-mark, to get feedback without you having to go round everybody, and also for them to reflect and try things multiple times. It's just, it's a phenomenal resource. For similar reasons, we make use of Microsoft Forms. These allow us with every technical exercise for the students to almost self-mark, then check things against the forms. Now, of course, that won't give us all the information. There's only a certain amount of things you can do with automated marking, but they enable us to get really good, quick feedback and enable us to prioritize supporting those students who really need it and enable those higher ability students to move on quickly through it without having to wait for us to come check their work. It also means that we can get feedback on how many people have answered, where things are going wrong a lot. So again, we can adjust the teaching or readdress it in the module, which is really helpful. We're big fans of Kahoot as well. Thanks to Orly and Sam for really embedding that in us when we were younger educators. And Kahoot enables us to do a lot of quizzes, and we have a paid for license so that we can use the wide variety, including the drop pin, open-ended and brainstorm, which really gives us a wide variety of things we can do. Again, we can do those as classroom exercises where we all play along together. I found that super useful when we were doing MSc revision last semester, or we can use them as self-paced where we put them as part of the training like we're going to do week after next, for students to be able to self-pace and self-review. We use a variety of 360-degree environments, including ThingLink, where we can do interactive crime scenes, we can do interactive scenarios. So like for our vehicle forensics material, again, they can review the car and the environment and work around it so that we don't have to go through the health and safety of letting them near the vehicle every time, or them being on site to go near the vehicle. They can just review it in their own time and work through things. Again, really nice. Originally, we were using Voki. Now, this is a paid for tool where you can have characters that you can interact with, but the range of character movement and the type of characters is quite limited. So what we've done for our new scenarios, we've moved on to using Adobe Suite almost completely. And this has enabled us to design our own custom characters, to have full range of movement, full control of the voices, and just make them that little bit more interactive and that little bit more engaging. Having said that, though, we're aware that resources are in tight supply, and we're very lucky that we've got access to the full Adobe Suite. I think Voki on its free would work just as well for a lot of things. It's just that we're excited to do more animated development. And I have to say, I've learned a whole new skill set doing this, which has been fun as well. We use free things where we can because of that Linux open source mentality that we're very fond of. So OBS Studio for filming and OpenShot Video Editor when we can. But we do have a couple of Mac fans on the team, so they're big fans of using iMovie. Nothing against it, but the Adobe suites and some of the effects we get from our licenses at Motion Array and things can be really useful as well. So, you know, a wide variety of tools. Basically, everyone uses the tools that they're more comfortable with in the team. We don't say that the team has to use a specific set of tools. We try and make things template based where possible so that people can go in and edit. And we try and make individual research video snippets so people can use the videos in whatever tools rather than being tool confined. And finally, just as we're getting close to wrapping up, I guess the lessons learned in this really are that we've learned that using real world practitioner experience is something very core to digital forensics. We've found that particularly when training practitioners, if you don't do casework or you're not currently casework active, that can make life difficult in terms of having that meaningful dialogue and that understanding on both sides. So we're very keen to keep using real world activity, but without that mental health aspect. So we try and keep it as cheesy and gamified as possible. And now that all of our teaching is really that scenario immersive, case comes in at the beginning, we work all the way through the case, we've got our actors, we've got our interactive elements. That gamified nature just makes it more fun. It gives them more control, more autonomy, and it really makes it a hands-on experience. So I know at the end of every course that the students can do the things, they haven't just listened to me and Cy talk about the things. Which, you know, I think is the main thing, knowing that the students can go away and do it and actually have those skills at the end. You feel like you've really achieved something and you're really helping move digital forensics forward. So I'd like to end now with one of our final videos. So we always like to end with a video from a police officer or a detective in the case who sums up what happened and kind of finishes the case off.
Hello. I am Detective Bond. I wanted to call you and let you know how the case was going. We verified the evidence you sent us. After this we continued investigating. We identified a house where we thought Morgana was hiding. Having managed to get the correct paperwork, we raided the house. Inside we found Morgana and Sirius playing a racing game. She was in no distress and could have left. We arrested her and Sirius. On her arrest she said, "I would have got away with it, had it not been for those meddling people at Tux. We will let you know if we need you to attend court. In the meantime, thank you for your assistance."
So I think it's very clear that I spent most of my childhood in the 90s watching a lot of animated cartoons, and I feel that that has had a rub off in where we've taken the cheesy. But I'm hopeful, and I know Cy is, that we've done justice to the legacy of Tony and Brian by really taking their cheesy in-person approach and digitizing it and moving it forward for this new era. So I'd like to say thank you. If you've got any questions, please let me know. If you're interested in coming and seeing Cy and I to learn about our new short courses, a research collaboration, or even hiring us for casework, particularly if it's weirder than a washing machine, then please do reach out to us. But thank you for listening.